Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars-loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows, while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
And I'm Charles Rogers, and I am disappointingly, for continuity's sake, drinking water because we are recording this in the evening as opposed to the afternoon. And I did not have time between when I got off work and when I started recording this to get coffee. So alas, this is our disappointing episode. I like all tops will eventually disappoint you.
Well, I'm drinking a LaCroix, so I guess we're halfway there. We're halfway there.
You got it covered. You got it covered for the both of us. Bradley's picking up the slack here.
I'll probably try to make it more interesting as the weeks go on, because they just announced, as of this recording, like a couple days ago, of truly harder
yes.
drinks. So I'm probably going to be getting those soon. Who knows what's going to happen after that.
Drunk live stream. We're going to get Bradley to be a Twitch streamer, and we're going to get him drunk on stream.
Oh my God.
It'll be hilarious. No, we're not actually going to do that.
That
would be a terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
That would be the worst idea.
Mm-hmm.
What would editing a drunk podcast even be like for you? Because Bradley is the one that, at least for the time being, is the one that actually has to edit these, and I listen to them after the fact, but
I don't know.
You do that? Like,
I don't even know if I could go back.
Listen to yourself.
Yeah, because I'd be like listening to it and being like, why did I say that? Why? I need to cut that out. That doesn't even make any sense. Why would I say it in that order? What, you know what I mean? I'd be too frustrated with it. I'd be like, I can't do it.
I don't even know how that would work. Maybe if we branched out into streaming eventually.
Right.
You know, I've done it once or twice. Like, a lot of my friends, Kyle, who we had on last week, is a queer streamer. So there's who knows? We've been talking about expanding the brand outwards. We might get some streaming going and maybe have a few truly harders while we're on there.
Truly extra hard is what it's called.
Truly extra hard. Oh, they're extra hard.
That's right.
Oh, so that makes sense because you're also extra.
Right, exactly. Well, it's like you have to be extra to drink it. So it's very like...
You have to be extra gay.
Right, exactly.
This is not a drink for the faint of heart. This is not a top drink.
Well, you know, I'm going to need these Trulies to get through a couple of these new things that Disney has announced recently on Disney+.
Yes, I was about to say, speaking of extra, as of recording, again, we record these a little bit in advance when we're off season. As of this recording, they just announced how many 8 new things are coming?
I don't even know. Couple.
7. I'm looking at the list right now.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and read them off here for context. We have Star Wars Ewoks Seasons 1 and 2, so the animated show.
Okay.
We have The Story of the Faithful Wookiee, which was the animated section of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Okay. They were releasing just the animated section with Boba Fett's first appearance in it.
Okay.
I'm going in order of things I'm most excited for.
Gotcha.
We have Star Wars Clone Wars Volumes 1 and 2, the original Cartoon Network show.
Love that.
And then finally, those fucking cowards at Disney have finally bowed to the demand of the fan, because I was literally the only one asking for this.
Right.
And are putting Caravan of Courage and the best Star Wars movie, Ewoks, The Battle for Endor, on Disney Plus, where I can watch it as much as I want.
So I'm definitely going to need these Trulies to be able to get through watching any of this, because it's all pretty fucking terrible. But, you know.
No, did you see the Clone Wars? Like, you know,
I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen it on YouTube. I've never seen it like live, but I do love the Samurai Jack show. So I actually did watch like the first couple minutes, I think, of one of the episodes, and I really liked it. It was really good. Because I just like the action. I like that Samurai Jack kind of like.
That's all this was.
Whatever. Yeah.
Like when it came out, I remember because I was 13 or 14 when this came out.
Okay.
I remember actually they were like 5-minute bits and they had the 30-minute time slots.
Oh.
But they had worked it to where like there was another show that was technically in that time slot, and then there were like these 5-minute episodes. And we actually, this was back in the days before everything was easily accessible on YouTube.
Gotcha.
So we actually had a video cassette where we had pressed record on the video cassette, and we captured the first season. And so we were able to go and watch it back. That was how we watched it when I was a preteen or so early teenager, I think preteen when this came out. I might have been a little bit younger because this would have been like 2000.
I'm looking it up right now. So it was 2003.
2003. I was 12
for
most of that year.
I was in the 3rd grade, so I don't even know how old you are in the 3rd grade. But that's
I was
how old
12. Yeah, I would have been in 6th or 7th grade. Yeah, I remember because it's cool because it's one of like before the Clone Wars, the new show, it was like the Clone Wars show. It's like the coolest thing. Like the Mace Windu episode, that lives rent free in my brain.
Yeah, I was 9 when this came out, so there you go.
Kit Fisto episode also lives rent free in my brain, but for completely different reasons.
I've seen that clip of Mace Windu, and I thought, wow, this really shows off like Jedi Force powers really well. Like if you had to explain to somebody what they can do, like I feel like that scene is like a good like it would be in like the like the sex ed video of like what Jedis are. Like it would be that scene of Mace Windu killing all the droids.
Your terrible public education video from the 80s. What
exactly
is a Jedi's?
Right. It's like
Mace and it Windu stars like somebody with terrible 80s hair.
Absolutely. Or it's like those YouTube videos where they try to like give the backstory of characters, like when everybody knows who they are already, but they give like this super in-depth thing. They're like, Mace Windu was born in 1577. You know what I mean? Like whatever. And then they do
the lore videos.
Yes.
Yeah, like yeah, like that's a lot of. I found that Star Wars videos on YouTube either they fall into basically one of 3 categories. Either it is a strict lore video where it's essentially like somebody is summarizing the Wikipedia or the Wikipedia article,
right,
and reading it like a book report.
Yeah, they just read. Yeah, they're just reading it off the screen.
Or it's a review of something that's recently come out. Or it's all of the reasons that Disney Star Wars is the worst, and also they're going to totally retcon the sequel trilogy out by doing time travel, and Kathleen Kennedy got fired again. This is, I swear, about like 20-30% of YouTube videos about Star Wars. There's some version of they're totally going to fire Kathleen Kennedy at some point.
That's never gonna happen.
Totally coming, guys. It's coming.
Yeah.
Somehow those keep winding up in my mentions, despite the fact that I don't watch any of them or want to.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but that's never going to happen. Sorry to all those people who really want that to happen. It's never going to happen.
You're not gonna call it.
I was going to say it could be Force Awakens or whatever could have made like $0.00, and that she still would be in charge. Like it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just not going to be so easy to dislodge, guys. Back to the shows that are coming out. We know which one I'm the most excited, which of these new things I'm the most excited for. It's obviously the best Star Wars movie, Ewoks: The Battle for Endor.
Right.
Which one of these, I won't say which one are you most excited for, I'll say which one are you going to watch first?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'll probably just end up watching the Clone Wars one first, just because it's easy. It's just like one of those quick get it done kind of things. Like I've already kind of seen it, but this will be like it'll be already in like a nicer format for me to just be able to kind of go through them chronologically, and I can kind of watch it and be like, say that, oh, I watched it, you know? I'm not watching it thinking like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And this is all I ever wanted kind of thing. I will watch those first, but I think I'm not most excited for is the wrong way to say this, but I am genuinely curious about these Ewok movies because I never saw them as a child. So I don't know what they're about or what other than the fact that they look like they're just the Care Bears movie, but with Star Wars characters. So that's pretty much all I got. I mean,
it's basically what they are.
Which means I mean, they were made for TV movies. I probably will watch.
Oh, you'll finish them.
I'll probably watch about 5 minutes and give up.
If for no other reason, oh God, the opening to Ewoks: The Battle for Endor is like permanently seared into my brain just because of how ballsy it is.
Okay, well, I'm very excited. Don't ruin it.
Crazy.
I'm very excited.
I won't. When you watch this, you will understand some of my writing style.
Gotcha.
After you see this, I think what I'll probably watch the Ewoks movies first.
Yeah.
Just because. No, it's great that they're releasing this old stuff on there because, you know, you raised the point of, you know, having really seen a lot of them and they were difficult to find. They were difficult to get access to. Clone Wars, you could watch on YouTube.
Right.
Like it was hard. It's hard to get some of these. Like Ewoks, the show, I haven't even seen.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that like out of all this, I noticed that one of them was missing. The Droids TV show's not on there.
Droids, I don't know why that is. No article I found has ever mentioned
like why it's not on there.
Might be. Although I have heard a rumor through the grapevine that they're sort of piloting releasing some of this stuff because they might release Star Wars Detours as well on Disney Plus.
Wait, that's like some weird comedy thing, right?
That was like a weird comedy thing that they actually produced and finished 2 seasons of.
And they never released it. Interesting. That would be weird. You know what? And if you were going to put it anywhere, it would be Disney Plus.
You could dump everything on Disney Plus.
Dump it all on there. Who cares? The premier place to get Star Wars content.
I mean, that's basically what they're angling towards.
Right.
Watch, whenever they re-release the original theatrical cuts, it's going to be through Disney Plus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm getting to the point now where it's like my Disney Plus subscription is going to end up just being like just my library of Star Wars stuff. Like I'm never going to ever own Star Wars stuff anymore. It's just going to always live in Disney Plus, and I'll always pay them every single year to continue to be able to get access to that content.
No, the last one I bought on physical media was The Last Jedi. So for the longest time, it was very difficult. That was the last one I bought.
Wow.
Because Rise of Skywalker, Disney Plus had come out, so it's like, I'm not going to bother investing money in this. I'm about to move from Tennessee to California.
Gotcha.
$20 is something I got to think really hard about.
The last time I bought physical media would have to be, I bought the OG trilogy special edition on VHS. On Mercari like a year ago because I had a VHS player from Goodwill and I wanted to watch the movies in their original formatting, you know, because there's something about watching it on a VHS tape that's different. And this was before Disney Plus had been released, so I didn't have access to it other than my DVDs.
Now, were you the friend, because I remember talking to a friend like a few months ago about having like the original theatrical cuts on VHS. Was that you?
No, I don't think so.
No, it wasn't you? I had to find out who that was, because somebody I know has the original theatrical cuts on VHS.
Gotcha.
I don't know who this person is. So I'm sure that, you know, as there is a glut in content, when there is a glut in content, at least for this year, we may be revisiting some of this old TV from the days before.
Yeah, I mean, because if we do need that time to fill, we can definitely use these things. I'm glad that they're putting it on here because otherwise we'd have to watch some crappy YouTube version of it. And now we can watch, hopefully, a either updated version of it or a nice, like at least cleaned up version of it, you know. So we'll see.
We will, I guess, Move on to the unfortunate grim reality of a TV show that's not about the Ewoks.
Hey, give it a season. You never know. If they went to Tatooine a couple episodes ago, who the fuck knows if they'll go to Endor?
The Jawas and Ewoks are secretly conspiring.
I'm just saying.
I mean, they mentioned Gungans in this episode,
Hey,
so
you never know.
They're covering the trifecta of
Exactly, I'm telling you.
Comic relief aliens.
We're getting there. We're getting one step closer to having that stuff come back. So who knows?
One step closer. I almost kind of want to see. Did you ever play a game called Empire at War?
No.
So Empire at War, it had an expansion that was trying to be like super edgy and like, oh, we're a crime syndicate, so we're going to be edgy. And one of the things that they had, one of the units that you could control was like Ewok, like suicide bombers, to where there's these Ewoks that you could run them up and they blow themselves up. It was really bizarre. And I feel like on the one hand, that's the kind of thing we would see from these shows, but on the other hand, that probably is a little too much for Disney.
That's too much. This week, we take a look at The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 6, titled The Prisoner, where the Mandalorian is part of a crew of mercenaries springing a convict from a prison ship. Charles, what's one thing you liked about the episode, one thing you did not?
I had one thing I liked and one thing I did not. The thing that I did not like, I'll start with that, is they worked so hard to get you to dislike all of these people. And I felt like they did not get the appropriate level of comeuppance in the episode itself for the amount of time they spent getting us to dislike them. Like, it was scene upon scene upon scene of driving home. All of these people are awful. And then, like, when I watched the actual episode, Mando giving them their comeuppance took like 10 seconds for each one, with the exception of the Deveronian.
Gotcha.
And then one thing I liked, I love the production design of this episode. I'll talk a bit about it as we go through each scene.
Gotcha.
But one thing I really wanted to note was how, like, I loved how sterile the ship was. It was all white. It had like Tantive 4 vibes.
Yeah, it was very 80s.
Where it's like
kind of.
Yeah, it's like 80s sci-fi kind of deal.
It was perfect.
I thought that was neat. I liked the CCTV monitors and all that. I thought that was cool. What about you? One thing you liked and one thing you disliked, or in reverse order?
Well, I have to go in order because they kind of feed off each other. But I really liked the actual crew members themselves, just because I like when Star Wars gives us main characters that are alien species that we have seen either in cartoon form or just in the old movies, but they never had a feature role because the costumes were not there yet in, technology wise. Whereas now they are there technology wise and they can emote fully and they can have full face costumes and they look really cool. And you're like, whoa, that's a Twilight main character live action. That's not just a fucking sexy dancer lady. Like, it's great. So I love stuff like that. I did not like one of the jokes of the episode, which is actually not a joke as much as it is just a kind of like a self-deprecating nod or something. Like, so I did not like Bill Burr's character being the reference character, where he kind of mentions, we'll get to what he mentions later, but I
know what joke you're talking about.
Okay, so there's only two. He does like two major references in Star Wars lore in this episode. So I didn't like him being the person who does that, but I think that's also the joke, because the joke is that he doesn't know anything about Star Wars, and so the fact that he's the one giving us those references is the joke. So I don't know. I kind of disliked it, but also I get it at the same time. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, I think I know what joke you're talking about. I know what two references you're talking about because I also have them noted here.
Okay.
It's interesting that you would say that you didn't like that they were given to that character
Right.
of Mayfeld.
Right.
Where,
Well, I don't want to get into like why I don't like that as much until we get to him, because then we can talk about who he is.
okay,
Because then from there it kind of makes more sense.
you'll just have to keep listening to find out what the hell Bradley is talking about.
Right.
I mean, we're 9 episodes in, and I don't know what the hell Bradley is talking about. So,
right. But yeah, let's just get right into it.
let's dive straight into it.
So I'm calling this scene, by the way, just for the rest of the episode, I call this the chop shop. I have no idea what they do on this little space station, and I just assume it's a place where they fix cars. Like, I was just like, oh, they probably just fix like ships here or something, like illegally or something. Like, I don't know. I just call it a chop shop.
I'm sure this was completely unintentional, but the very first shot of the episode, my brain kind of went, oh, this reminds me of Bounty Hunter, the game that came out to tie into Attack of the Clones that I actually played on the GameCube. It came out on a couple of different systems, I think, but I played it on the GameCube. I believe it is coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, wow.
But the very first shot, I was like, this gives me Bounty Hunter vibes. And then later on, when they pull out and they reveal the station, one of the locations in the Bounty Hunter game is the station, a space station. I was like, I don't know if this is intentional or just it happens to be the same Star Wars aesthetic, but I'm getting some really strong Bounty Hunter vibes here.
Well, I'm just gonna call it the chop shop because I don't think they give it a name, so that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, they don't. The chop shop. That works for me.
Okay, great. So we actually meet a new character in this very first scene. His name is Ran. He's played by Mark Boone Jr. You may or may not know who he is, but he was on Sons of Anarchy, and I think he was in the Batman Begins movie, which is the Dark Knight series. So he's just kind of like our introductionary character.
I like that with him, we lean so heavily into the Wild West. Like, I got like Prospector from Toy Story 2 vibes.
Okay, that's what I was trying to think. Like, what is the reference here? Because I know it's Western, and I was trying to figure out what his character was, because
the Prospector from Toy Story 2.
Right, because he even has a line where he goes, wow, I haven't seen you around these parts. Like, he literally says, round these parts, like,
these parts,
right, in like an almost Southern accent, which is like, that's a Western reference. So I'm like, wait, who is this character and why is he talking like that?
I ain't seen you around these parts, Padre.
Right.
Jesus Christ. Oh, yeah, it's hilarious because the Mandalorian really leans into that some places.
Yeah. Well, and then this episode is so interesting too, because like with this character's introduction, we get the sense that Mando has this whole backstory that's separate from the whole I'm a Mandalorian, this is the way thing, that is like running concurrently with that we don't get to see ever. And I only realized that in this episode.
That will come up several times in this episode. In fact, this episode so much references a backstory that we don't know what it is.
Right.
Like, it feels like a continuation of something that maybe like we should know about.
And we never find out.
We never find out what's going on here.
Right. Even like, I'm trying to think like back the whole entire season, even season 2, there's nothing. Like, none of this is ever referenced again. There is nothing like Mando. I mean, we get Mando's backstory, but we don't get any of this backstory in anything.
Because we know he was, he's a pretty prolific bounty hunter and a pretty prolific mercenary.
Right.
He had to do jobs to get that.
Right.
And this episode is kind of exploring that a little bit more, as opposed to the other episodes, which were all about the Mando aspect of the Mando.
Well, I was also getting the sense that the stuff they were referencing wasn't happening when Mando's an adult. It was more like when he was a teenager or a young adult, like really young, because the way they were saying things, like the Rand character, he's like, I can't go out anymore. I can't be doing that stuff anymore. I'm too old now. Like, so I was getting the sense that this was all happening when they were younger, like a young kind of group of people who are trying to make a name for themselves.
I wonder if there's going to be a TV show set between episodes 3 and 4 where we might get a chance to maybe see some of this in the background, or we might see some of, I can't think of a show offhand that might be premiering on Disney Plus May the 4th that might potentially we could see, maybe not explanations for this, but we might see some of these people in it.
Maybe. So he basically, this Rand character brings up the fact that things aren't really working out with the guild right now with Mando. So clearly the news has spread that Mando...
He says it the way that you say it to somebody you know, but not that well. And maybe you have a mutual friend, but your mutual friend has gone to the bathroom and you're just sitting at the bar with this person. You're like, so I hear things aren't really working out with you and your boyfriend.
Right.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's like he already knows what it is. Like, he knows everything, but he's just kind of referencing everything. And is like, well, I hear things just aren't that great.
And we actually will know. We will find out, at least it's implied, where he might have heard that later with another character that's going to pop up. But yes, the word is spreading.
Right.
And in fact, the episode recap did show, like in the brief second before I skipped the episode recap, because I watched this on my lunch break. But it did show like the bounty hunters that were coming after him getting like shot by Cara Dune in episode 4.
Gotcha.
And those others.
I mean, it's a good continuation of that plot too, to like kind of explain away that, like, when Cara Dune did kill that one bounty hunter, it's kind of like be like, okay, look, people are still looking for them. It's still happening. We're just letting you know that that's still happening and that its word is getting around.
We will explore this.
Right.
Later on in the episode, we will explore to what degree do people know what happened on Navarro? Yeah,
it's kind of weird in this episode because I'm watching the episode thinking like, do they know what's happening, or are they trying to like reference something maybe that's happening that did happen earlier that they're just trying to get revenge for, or like, it's kind of weird. Like,
I have a theory that I will get to a little bit later.
Okay, we'll wait till we get there. So he says that we want to get a crew together and that they need Mando's unregistered ship. So he is the 5th member of this crew to kind of tie it all together, which is kind of a callback to the previous episode when we talked about how the ship is, unregistered, or it's like,
this is our explanation, which is actually in the scene a little bit later on, but this is our explanation for why he likes the Razor Crest so much.
Right.
Because it's unregistered. It's so old that it doesn't have like any identification whatsoever.
Right. There's no papers. There's no pink slip.
Yeah. And that's as good of an explanation as any, and might come up, in season 2, for example, that the ship is in fact unregistered.
Right.
You have to wonder how many of these unregistered ships are floating around out there.
Yeah. And actually I did notice that, I don't know if this was a Rebels reference or not. But the Rand character says that because the ship is unregistered, it's basically a ghost. And
probably not a reference, but I will take whatever I can get reference to my wonderful friends on the Ghost.
I was trying to think like, wait a minute. I'm trying to go back in my brain and think like, okay, in Rebels, why was the Ghost called the Ghost? Is it because it was an unregistered ship? No, that's not right. That doesn't make any sense. It was this, like, so I'm trying to like go back in my brain.
I believe it could disguise itself to slip in and out of barriers.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, but
I believe it could transmit different codes to be quote unquote different ships. So the ship itself was a ghost. But
that sounds like a reference to
Rebels.
Me. I was
maybe we should rewatch Rebels.
That sounds like a reference to Rebels to me. So even if it's just the word ghost,
everything is a reference. Everything is a fucking reference. You drop one fucking word and Screenrot will write a 1,000 word fucking article about it and waste everyone's time.
So we actually start to meet the other crew members in sequence, just to kind of, it's kind of that whole, here, let me introduce you to the team so I can tell you about everybody's special skills, and they kind of go down the line. But we'll start with the first one, which is the leader of the group. He is called Mayfield, and he is the trigger man of the group, played by comedian Bill Burr.
There are several interesting shots here with the close-ups of the helmet and the way that they do the handheld and the way it conveys the sense of unease. Yeah. But never mind that, because I have something in this scene that I want to complain about.
Okay, what's that?
And my complaint is it canon that stormtroopers have bad aim? Because hear me out on this, because this has always bothered me. I have gone on tirades about this. I want to enter it into the record here. The thing about stormtroopers having bad aim comes from A New Hope, where Ben Kenobi says only Imperial stormtroopers have aims this precise when they're massacring the Jawas. But then on the Death Star, the rebels don't, like the stormtroopers don't seem to be able to hit the rebels while they're escaping. And people are like, oh, their aim is so bad, lol. No, listen. The stormtroopers are throwing their shots on the Death Star. They want to find the rebel base. They want to let the Falcon escape, but they can't make it too easy, or the rebels might figure out that they're actually tracking them back to the base. That's the whole point of not immediately murdering them the second they get Leia out of there and just deploying the entire level on there. They want them to go back to the base so they can destroy it with the Death Star. The stormtroopers are not missing their shots. They're missing on purpose. And it is harder when you are firing a weapon to miss on purpose, because your muscle memory is going to want you to hit. You have to actively fight against everything in your body's programming not to hit them. So these stormtroopers, their aim is actually more precise because they're deliberately missing and making sure not to hit any of them so they could escape. And when we do see the stormtroopers in later films actually firing seriously, they manage to hit a lot of the time. Leia gets shot on Endor by a stormtrooper. So the fact that this line is in there, and anytime in universe they make a joke about the stormtroopers not being able to hit, I'm like, no, maybe the conscripts, but the stormtroopers that we see that are dealing with the rebels, yes, they absolutely have good aim in the films. That has always bothered me. That is my rant. I will always go on from now until the end of fucking time. The stormtroopers in A New Hope have terrifyingly accurate shots. You just don't see it because they're deliberately trying to miss.
Okay. And unfortunately...
I'm sober, by the way.
I was going to say, unfortunately, Mando's line here canonizes the fact that they had terrible aim. So, you are incorrect. Anyway, moving forward.
Disney Star Wars sucks.
Well, to be fair, though, Mayfield says he was not a stormtrooper, which he was a former sharpshooter, which implies he was in the infantry, not in the... He's not a stormtrooper. He was kind of like in Solo when... Han Solo is conscripted into the Empire. He's not a stormtrooper. He's an infantryman. So I think he's like kind of more in the army-esque versus the police force, I guess, if you want to give them like a differentiation.
Yeah, because the stormtroopers we do see in Solo and some of the others, like the stormtroopers aren't the end-all be-all. There's other branches. Right. There's other even infantry branches of the Imperial armed forces.
So we get our first annoying reference number one from Mayfield, which is why this is part of the episode I didn't like, was his references. And this one was one of them I didn't like, where he says that the Razor Crest looks like a Canto Bight slot machine.
I was like, hey, they're acknowledging my favorite of the movies.
Right. I'm like, Great. They're referencing the only part about The Last Jedi that I fucking can't stand.
The 11-minute sequence where
Right.
they're on Canto Body. I liked it because at the time this was coming out, there were all these rumors that were swirling. You live a happy life where you don't have to know all this stuff, but I unfortunately talk about Star Wars on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, like all these things were swirling around about how Lucasfilm secretly hates The Last Jedi, and the discourse was just so like vile and toxic at the time. It was nice to see a reference to it.
Yeah.
Even that one little line, I was like, that's nice to
Well,
see.
I'm noticing they're gonna have to start referencing the Disney era movies more frequently now, because if they, you know how like they had to start doing that with the prequels. They had to kind of reference the prequels to kind of acknowledge the fact that those things exist in that universe. So they have to kind of start referencing those things. And so the same with this one, they have to kind of start referencing the new things and older stuff to be like, look, it was there the whole time. We just didn't see it, you know?
Yeah. That's the thing when you make up the universe as you go along.
Right. So anyway,
you have to go back and retroactively put it in.
I just didn't care for that. But
or you can be George Lucas and literally retroactively put it in by including it in the special editions of your movies.
Oh, I mean, that works too. I mean, I'm sure, I mean, not to put this into the universe, but there will be special editions of all the movies, I'm sure, at some point.
Oh, no.
Because there's going to be like a definitive edition of...
They're going to do the... God, that just reminds me, speaking of... This episode has contained several references to weird internet bullshit.
Yeah.
There was this conspiracy theory. Oh, God. I can't remember at what point it was at. But there was this conspiracy theory that, like, there was this secret Abrams cut of the movie. And somebody had posted this long, like, Reddit post that was like, here's what was in the secret Abrams cut. And it literally was like, it was the most bizarre read because you could tell it was designed to like get as many people to be excited about this as possible.
Right.
Like, and so it was for 5 minutes because these Star Wars controversies happened for like 5 minutes.
Right.
But it blew up for like 5 minutes of, I guess there was a secret 3-hour Abrams cut of the film. I'm like, one, this alternate film that is on Reddit, that does not exist. I'm sorry, that probably does not exist.
Wait, what movie was this for?
This was Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, well,
And
to be fair, every single... I hate when people say that there's like a 4-hour movie somewhere floating around. Yes,
it's the
that's
assembly cut.
Yes, every single movie has that. That's not
it's
a weird
the assembly
thing.
cut.
It's not
when
a rumor.
When you cut together a film, that was the other thing I was going to get to. They were taking quotes out of context. It's like, oh, the film was 3 hours.
Right.
You know, when we originally 3 hours, 3.5 hours, it's the assembly cut.
Yeah, the movie's probably 6 hours. Yeah.
When you make a film, you do what's called the assembly cut. That's the first cut you do. And it's not the movie. It's just every scene you shot.
Right.
Put together so you can see what the whole thing looks like so you can start cutting it.
Right.
It's like that's what that is.
I hate when people say that. They're like Force Awakens was going to be 6 hours long and then they cut out half the movie. I'm like, no, that's not true at all.
They might have had, like, once the script was filmed, they might have had, a 6 hour film or whatever, but they're gonna cut it down. That's
crazy.
How this works. You get things like, if you watch like the Lord of the Rings, the extended editions versus the theatrical editions, and you actually take the time to study like what they cut out, or you look at the deleted scenes from the Star Wars, like look at Attack of the Clones, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at the scenes, they cut out this whole subplot with like Anakin meeting Padme's family that they shot. Is it fun world building scenes and character scenes for Padme and Anakin? Yes. Does it do anything to make the movie better? No.
I mean, I just feel bad for people that cut in that scene because they were like, we're going to be in a Star Wars movie. And then, no, you're in a Star Wars deleted scene.
It happens a lot. Tom Hardy got cut out of Last Jedi.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have gotten cut from Star Wars, and like that's their claim to fame is like I got cut out
I
of a
was
Star Wars movie.
almost in Star Wars. I
Right.
was 5 minutes from being in Star Wars.
Well, it's kind. I mean, there's only one person I can think of who got cut from Star Wars and then got put back in because of a deleted scene from Rogue One.
And who was that? I'm
She
not
was
getting it.
she was cut out of, I believe it was either Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones.
Mon Mothma. Oh, how did I not get this? She's one of
I
my
don't
favorite
know.
characters.
That's why I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
that's why I didn't say her name. I was
I am
like,
so
I thought you would
stupid.
know this.
I am so stupid. Yeah, the whole this is what we get for recording this episode at night or the evening as opposed to recording it in the afternoon when I have
Right.
coffee because I just got off work. My job is terrible.
Gotcha.
And so I'm brain dead. Like, how did I forget one of my favorite characters
Right.
in the entire franchise?
So we got to keep going because there's more characters in this group.
There's so many fucking characters in
Sorry,
this episode.
we got to keep going. Okay, so the next character we meet is Berg, the muscle, and he is a Deveronian.
And the toxic masculinity is strong with him.
I actually like. He's one of my favorite characters out of all of the things because, like I said before, we only got to see Deveronians in the original New Hope, and it was the mask could not move because it was just a shitty devil's costume from some other random movie, and the mouth didn't articulate or anything. And so now, when you can articulate and do things now, it's cool to have these aliens that we never got to see before be in Star Wars and talk and do stuff.
That's a great speech that you just gave. But you can admit that the real reason is because you're into horn daddies.
Okay, no, I'm not. Anyway,
you can admit it. It's okay. We won't judge you.
Berg is acted by Clancy Brown, who some may know from their childhood as the voice of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, which is how I knew him. But older people, like some people who are listening right now, or just listening to me talk in California, might know him from the Shawshank Redemption, which I don't know is some movie that was made.
That sure is a movie that exists that I know exactly.
Right.
I have actually seen that movie several times, not because I particularly like it. It's a very good movie, but it's my father's favorite movie of all time. Is the Shawshank Redemption. Gotcha. So I've seen it several times. Actually, it's one of the few. I didn't watch it like necessarily as a kid. Well, I did. I watched scenes from it as a kid. Oh. Now he would turn it off the TV when it got to anything that was too like Shawshank Redemption-y. But like I've watched that film. I'm familiar with that film. I know that was directed at my age.
Gotcha.
I know what you're doing here. You're mad about the fact that I called you out for liking horn daddies.
Moving on to the next character.
Okay, just ignore that. Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, moving on to the next one, we get Zero, the droid. Like I said, the body work was done by the guy who now does the body work of C-3PO. Same guy. It is voiced by Richard Sorry, I can't say his last name. I didn't have anything notable that he was in that we would know. But I had something interesting about the character of Zero, other than the fact that we've already seen him in the show.
I was about to say, yes, we have already seen him in the show.
Actually, a different trivia about Zero, which I didn't get before because they didn't mention it. But
so what you're saying is there's not Zero trivia,
right? So his design. Supposedly his design is from A New Hope. There's a robot I think it's in the Sandcrawler that is the same type of robot as him. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just one of the things. But this design of this character resembles that of an unused Kenner prototype toy. So they took a prototype from Kenner and we're like, let's make a character.
They are not fucking around with these deep cut references.
Right. It was a Death Star droid action figure a prototype of a Death Star droid action figure that they used for his body and stuff. So I was like,
I remember when I was a kid, we had a book of like action figures, like the history of action figures. And I think I might vaguely remember reading about some of these prototyped designs that were never used.
Gotcha.
But the whole history of like Kenner versus Hasbro in terms of making these toys. I'm sure there are toy collectors who will listen to the show and be like, I could talk about that for 2 hours.
Right. I had that exact prototype that I bought.
I have that exact prototype. I can point to you exactly on my shelf of 8 million toys, which, I mean, sticks and stones. I have a storage unit full of Legos, and I'm literally looking at your collection of Funko Pops right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like my toys are better than your toys.
My toys are better than your toys, but we won't address that here.
All right.
I got to watch A New Hope again this weekend for a semi-related project I'm kicking around. So I'll keep an eye out for that droid and see if
let me know if you see it.
Was in. I will send you a text message if I see the droid.
I was gonna say, because he'll come up again too later on in season 2, so we'll see if that is even remotely related. So we'll find out.
Interesting.
And then we meet our last member of the crew, which is Zeon the Twi'lek, who is played by Natalia Tena. Now, I know we mentioned in the last episode with Ming-Na Wen the Disney trifecta. Natalia has what I'm going to call I wouldn't call it the definitive nerd trifecta, but she has a nerd trifecta. Okay.
She has managed to get 3.
She's managed to get 3
She's a triple threat. We should call them triple threats.
Triple threats. Okay, that's a way better way to, because I think we have the Disney trifecta people, and then we have the triple threats, which are just people who have just been in nerdy ass things.
Nerd things.
Right. 3 major nerd things. Right. So she's known for playing the wildling woman Osha on Game of Thrones, and then she's also known for Nymphadora Tonks in Harry Potter. So she's really gotten that kind of triple threat of being
to this day. I watched this episode, and her acting is so good, and her prosthetics are so good, and her makeup is so good. I genuinely cannot tell that it is her. Like, normally, like, I look at Clancy Brown, I go, yeah, that's Clancy Brown.
Gotcha.
Underneath that makeup. I know who that is. With her, it's so good, and she disappears so fully into it that, like, if I wasn't actively reminded, oh, that's the lady from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recognize her at all.
See, you say that, but see, when I watched the episode for the first time, I instantly knew it was her. I don't know how. I was just like, that's the girl from Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I know her from somewhere. Like, I've seen her before. And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, she's from Harry Potter.
She's just hamming it up like Ian McDermott style in this. It's just like, you give some of these actors a chance to just like cut up and just go wild with it, and clearly she did.
Well,
like,
it's funny too
when an actor's having fun.
Right. Well, it's funny because she's like, it's almost like she knows that, like, I'm only going to be in this show one time. So she's like, let me just fucking go for it. Like, I'm just going to overact the fuck out of this. And it works well for the character, because I don't know if it's just that, like, Twi'leks are supposed to be like, you know how, like, there's that whole, we kind of touched on this before, that how Twi'leks are supposed to be like these like sexual beings, and they don't have any other character.
They're seen that way. We talked about the idea that human males in particular fetishize them. This is a good look at there's more to that culture.
Right.
There's more to that group of people. They're not all just the sexy dancers that we see or have seen thus far.
Right.
They're a vibrant and if you watch the Clone Wars too, they're a vibrant and diverse people.
Well, some of them are criminals, and
some of them are criminals.
That's great.
Some of them are criminals. Some of them are rebel generals.
So, and I think that the joke here too is that, I don't know if it was reciprocated, but the joke here is that she is Mando's ex-lover, or some kind of, like, they had a fling of some kind. So I don't know if it, like, was reciprocated, but she clearly at some point has like
Was-
had a crush on him of some kind.
What is it with these women and falling for
I don't
like
know.
wanting this man that they can't see a single square inch of? Maybe because they know they'd never have to look at him,
Right.
which
I
of
guess.
course would be the ideal man, one that I never have to look at or speak to or interact with in any way. But he gives me his credit cards.
And then we get our title screen of The Prisoner. Now,
did you notice that the music was slightly different?
yes, I was just about to say that. The music is slightly distorted or just like a tinge different. Like I can't explain like what it is, but it's just different. It's the same beat, but it's just like not the same.
I'm worried as we go through these episodes that we're taking the same notes.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a stylized, like,
Yeah, it's definitely, but it stuck out to me. And it was weird to make that choice for this episode.
Yeah, because they also played again at the end of the episode too.
Yep.
So I thought that was weird. But
maybe Ludwig Göransson just got bored and started doing whatever he wanted. Which I mean, fair. The man,
good for him.
So like, good, he can do whatever he wants.
Well, I was getting this. I was getting annoyed because not because of the music, because I saw the title. Now, the OCD in me is mad because the titles of every episode are all the something, except for 2 episodes in this whole fucking season are one-word things. It's like, you couldn't just call them the thing? Like, why the fuck does Sanctuary, chapter 4 is just Sanctuary, but then the 2 preceding episodes after this are going back to the original format of the something.
What was the second episode?
So we have The Mandalorian is episode 1. The Child is episode 2. The Sin is episode 3. Sanctuary. Then The Gunslinger. The Prisoner. And then just for continuity's sake, the next episode is called The Reckoning, and then the finale is called Redemption. It's like, what the hell?
I can see why Redemption breaks the naming scheme because it's the final episode.
Yeah. Well, you also can't say like The Redemption, like that's not. I don't even know if that's proper.
You can say The Redemption.
Can you?
It sounds bad, but you can technically say it.
Well, it's because you would say like The Redemption of blank. You wouldn't just say The Redemption. You would say, you'd add to it. So I think, yes, that would be fine if that broke the convention. But I think with Sanctuary, it bothers me that it's not called like The Sanctuary, or it's not, because the naming convention's right there. You'd had it the whole time.
The naming scheme.
Yes, and then
keep to the naming scheme. You can't break it halfway through.
No, but what is even worse about that is all of season 2 is the something. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but every single one of the episodes in season 2 is called The Something. Every single one.
We are really delving into the things that super bother Bradley and I as like human people. So Bradley is bothered by one word. I am bothered by I make passionate defenses of the stormtroopers.
I need to call Jon Favreau right now and tell him to retroactively go back and change the episodes titles so that they all work with the uniform.
In the 6 degrees of separation, you know the 6 degrees of separation?
Yes.
So who do you think is actually closer to Jon Favreau, you or me?
Ooh. Well,
because both of us have done work in entertainment.
Right.
Both of us know people in entertainment.
That's hard to say.
So it's not like, because you're a working producer right now. I am not. I'm doing something else because of coronavirus. But it would be tricky to say which of us is closer.
I'm going to go with you only because I can think, without saying it, I can think of one person who is related or who is related by degree to someone who's actually been in a Star Wars film, and that's only 1 degree for you. So I would say that works.
3. That would be 3, assuming
1, 2, 3. Yes, 3 degrees for you. So that has to be
3 degrees for me.
Because I don't know.
Assuming that person has met Jon Favreau.
Right. And I don't know on my end if any of the
But
executives that
you
I
have worked
with.
at, you've worked, no, you didn't work for Werner Herzog. You just dealt with Werner
No.
Herzog's stuff at work.
I don't have that connection, but
You've worked at locally where you live in Atlanta, though, and that's where Pinewood is.
right.
So I'm betting you probably know somebody
I may have. I mean,
who's worked on
it's
the
true.
back end of some of these films. So
I mean, no one's ever told me they have, but it's possible that I just don't know who they are and they have. So
I'm guessing, like, I have the most direct that I could probably chart.
yeah.
I could probably figure out. But I'll bet you anything you're actually probably closer to Jon Favreau than I am.
Well, we'll have to find out one day.
Just because you've been a working producer in the Atlanta area, and I have not worked on anything in that particular area outside of when we were in school together.
Gotcha. Anyway, moving on. Back to the episode. So we're getting ready to leave the chop shop, and we have Zero on the Razor Crest. This is a really quick scene, but Zero's on the Razor Crest, and he kind of finds a distorted message from Grief Karga, and he's kind of like almost being a nosy Nelly. He's like, what is this curious thing? But this is where I wanted to bring this up because not because it was very important that he saw it. It's just hinting at something later on. If Zero was actually in the episode where the bounty hunters attack Mando and he attacks Mando, how does he not know that this is the same Mando?
I have that exact note later on.
Oh, you do? Okay,
so
well, let's talk about it then.
I have a theory, and I mentioned it earlier in the recording. I have a theory about what he knew and what he saw and what he didn't see.
Is this more relevant now or later?
So I believe he knows at this point, he knows that this Mando is the same Mando.
You think so at this point?
I think he knows that this Mando is the same Mando, but I don't think he knows what all precisely is going on.
See, I was getting the sense that he's racist and he thinks all Mandalorians look the same. And so he doesn't actually know that this is the same Mando until later.
I mean, I would say they do all look the same, but as you pointed out in a previous episode, they do have different styles in their helmets.
Right. Well, I just think that for a robot,
maybe Zero's just a bad person.
Well, I think maybe just because he's a robot, he doesn't or I'm sorry, not a robot because they don't call him robots in this. I think because he's a droid, he doesn't distinguish Mandalorians from other Mandalorians. He just thinks that like that's a Mandalorian. It's the same species, quote. Like he thinks of them as all being like just the same race of alien, kind of.
The fact that Star Wars has like all Twilights are from Ryloth.
Right.
All Quarren are from Mon Cala.
Yes.
All like Wookiees are from Kashyyyk. And then you have humans that are from like
30 different places.
different places. Alderaan, you have Alderanians.
Right.
You have Corellians. You have Coruscanti. You have... Those are kind of the big three.
Right.
Those are kind of the big three. Corellia, Alderaan, and Coruscant. Although, I guess it's the big two now.
Mm-hmm. So, moving on again. They talk about how they're going to break into a New Republic prison ship.
Here's what bothered me about that scene. Why did they bother lying to him about the ship? Like, I would get it if they said they're going to spring him from a rival cartel and then they get to the ship and whoop, New Republic ship. Right. They're literally in the hangar.
Yeah,
they haven't even left yet. Why bother lying about the cartel ship when 5 minutes later... it's going to be like, yeah, we lied to you. Is it just to fuck with them? Or
I don't know. Maybe they just don't. Maybe this is bad writing right here. They just don't explain it very well. But
no, Star Wars has some bad, inconsistent writing in it. That's never happened.
My favorite part of this scene though is the inclusivity of Mando. he does not refer to Zero as he or a masculine pronoun. He says it. He said, how can you trust it? And he's implying that droids are all non-binary, and that's because they are. They're not male or female. So they have male or female programming or masculine or feminine programming, but they are not neither male nor female.
Maybe droids get to pick how they identify, which would be kind of a cool aspect to the universe if they went that direction, because L3 is female,
right,
or identifies as a female.
Right.
C3PO identifies as a male and is referred to as male multiple times.
Right.
But then some droids are, I wonder if droids get to pick.
I don't know, because
I wonder if they,
I know that
like the ones with like sentience.
Yeah.
I wonder if they get
to choose.
Like the concept of being non-binary exists in the Star Wars universe. There's a non-binary character in Star Wars Squadrons. My most liked tweet of all time was me getting unreasonably excited about the presence of a non-binary character in Squadrons. It's like the concept exists in the universe. I wonder if droids can pick. I interpreted it more like Mando doesn't want to acknowledge that the droid has feelings.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was less about him being inclusive.
It is a nice, I mean, it's nice that you want to like credit him with that.
Right.
But I read it a little bit less kindly.
No, I know. I was just kidding. I mean, yeah.
Although now I'm like, I'm genuinely thinking like, I wonder if droids get to pick their pronouns. That would.
I'm gonna go with no, because
I'd be like sense. Most of them no, but like the ones like Zero or the 3PO units are clearly the ones with like L3 and Ooh, this is interesting. I have to dive into this further. I wonder how gender relates to droids in the Star Wars universe.
So we're finally off into space, and they're kind of discussing Mando in his his little room, I guess you'll call it, his bedroom. They're all hanging out in his room.
Studio apartment.
Right. They're all they're all hanging out in his studio. And they're going through his shit. And
you do.
And I love that so second reference done by our sharpshooter. He says the reason why Mando won't take off his helmet is because he's probably a Gungan. And he does the voice. He does the racist Jamaican accent voice or whatever it is that people don't like Jar Jar Binks for. And he says, I don't even know what he says. It's something like Misa don't want something. It's the incorrect grammar.
Take
off your helmet.
One of the uncomfortable relics of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Is some of the voices that were used in it with some of the aliens. That's something I would put a pin in that. I would love to have somebody on the show to address that. I don't think either of us could really do it. I think it's one of those things. It's like,
we just kind of have to gloss over the fact that
we just gotta have to gloss it. Like there's stuff to be said.
Yeah,
we'll have to get somebody on to say it.
Right.
I don't think it could really be either of us.
But so he references again the prequels, and then oops, they accidentally open the door and there's the child. And he's like, "Oh, you got a dog."
Well, it's an important character moment because they can't even conceive of the notion. They're building up Mando as like this morally like ambiguous kind of guy because that's how they knew him. And so the notion of, I adopted a child, like they really want us to hate these people. Like the whole scene is just, it's unnecessarily cruel.
Yeah.
The way that they're being like, I read the scene. I'm like, how does this crew like function normally?
Right.
How
without
is
him,
not, like their first job and they immediately fuck it up because they're awful. They're awful people. And like, they cannot control anything at all. And so the notion to them of like, oh, he's adopted a child. No, it never even occurred to him.
Right. So we finally get to the prison and they break into the prison and they all drop in. And I love that Zero is the guy in the chair. He's the, that character that helps our heroes because he's like, oh, I'll unlock the security door and I'll do this by sitting in a chair. But what's funny about this scene is that in all of Star Wars, R2-D2 is the guy in the chair, but he's always with them, right? So he always can bypass the security. He can always do whatever, right? Because he's always with them at every single time. And he even in this scene, Zero has the same exact tool that uses to hack every computer in Star Wars in his fucking arm. So he uses that to drive the ship. He uses that to calculate things. Like, it's just interesting.
Topically, that when you say the guy in the chair, it makes me think immediately of Spider-Man.
Yes,
there's our Marvel crossover
where he talks about.
Now they are they are currently filming the third one in Atlanta. Bradley, have you got to meet Tom Holland?
I cannot say whether or not I know, or no, I'm just kidding. I may or may not have met him in a hotel in downtown Atlanta. Hopefully, this is gonna. I'm thinking if I put this out in the universe, it might actually happen. So I might have to download Grindr again so that maybe he's on there and he'll maybe.
I want this for you.
Right.
I want this to live vicariously through you.
Oh, trust me. If this actually happened, I would tell you. I would be like straight up. Nope.
We wouldn't mention it on the show.
Nope, not at all.
But I would find out about this.
So when we actually go into the prison ship, we get to see some of the prisoners, which there wasn't really anything notable except for one of them.
I think it's the same one that I have in my notes.
Yeah, because I think there's only one other one that has some kind of makeup, but I couldn't find out what it was, or it looked like a troll or something, but it was like weird. I couldn't find anything on that. I don't know if you found anything on that one, but
no, the only one, again, I try not to look up too many of the references. I tend to leave the trivia to you. Gotcha. I tend to catch stuff that I personally caught.
Okay, what did you personally catch in this scene?
What I personally caught was the Ardenian.
Yes.
And the reason I remember it's called an Ardenian was because I have been reading Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule.
Okay.
Which is, side tangent, holy shit, holy fuck, this book is so fucking good. Oh my god, this is one of the best, like we were talking about the Mace Windu episode of Clone Wars. The first 100 pages of Light of the Jedi is just, here's everything the Jedi at their prime can do. Like the shit that they pull off in these first 100 pages, like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. But they also mention both a Clatoonian and an Ardenian.
Right.
And when I was reading the book, I was reading it on a break, I went, Ardenian, where have I? Oh, that's the thing from Solo.
Yep. And, well, even it, I guess, I mean, obviously this is not the same character because by this point in time, spoiler alert, that Ardenian is dead. But it is.
Wow, way to spoil the movie that came out several years ago and I've seen multiple times.
But it is the same species as Rio from Solo. But fun fact, Rio is voiced by Jon Favreau. So there you go. There's
everyone in Star Wars is voiced by two people.
Mark Hamill.
Jon Favreau and Mark Hamill.
Yes.
These are the only voices in Star Wars. No one else exists, and certainly not in this episode.
And you know what's funny is, I love that little callback because obviously, like, that's such a fun little thing for Jon Favreau to do. But now that he did that, I kind of want an Ardenian to be like a part of Mando's crew. Like, bring it back, like a different character, maybe played by someone close to Jon Favreau or something, just to like,
or just Jon Favreau again,
or just be related to him, like I don't know, like a female Ardenian or something that maybe is played by his wife or something. Like that would be next level stuff. Like that would be like references.
We have got to get you either a half decent PC or something. Maybe they'll port it to Switch. Who knows? Do you have a Switch?
I do have a Switch.
You do have a Switch. They might port it to Switch. There is an Ardenian. I think it's an Ardenian. The crewmate in Jedi Fallen Order. I'd have to check. I thought so, but I started saying this sentence and I realized I actually don't think so. But that's what I thought immediately was the character from Fallen Order, who's like the gruff ship captain. I have to check and see whether or not. I'm going to Google this right now.
You're like, what species of alien is so-and-so from
What species of alien is the guy from Fallen Order?
Right.
Let me see here. I'm checking. Okay, I found his name. I got to find the Wikipedia article on him. He is not. He is a Latero. He just happened to remind me a lot of Rio from Solo.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anyway, still play Jedi Fallen Order. It's still very good.
Gotcha.
Also, the ginger twink from Shameless is in it.
Right. So we also get a mouse droid, which is kind of a fun little, nod. But I thought was weird because mouse droids. I was under the assumption that a mouse droid is only on the Empire's ship, right? And then we see this mouse droid now on a rebel prison ship. So mouse droid is just a generic droid that is neither evil nor good, and it's just on every ship.
Let's see. Mouse droids. Yeah, because I had only seen them. I swear I'd seen them elsewhere. But no, according to the research that I totally did before this episode aired, and I am not just pulling up randomly.
Right.
Thank God we record these episodes on the computer,
right,
so that I can do this. Looks like many MSE-6 droids, which is what their actual designation is, were used by the Republic Navy during the Clone Wars. Confederacy of Independent Systems also maintained a number of these droids. And MSE-4 droids, a smaller but similar model, the Separatist Council War Room on Mustafar at the end of the Clone Wars. So they were used as far back as the Clone Wars. They're just, I guess, standard droids. So the New Republic must have repurposed some of the Imperial
Gotcha.
droids.
Okay. Well, speaking of droids, we also get a look at these new security droids, which are really kind of cool because they look a little bit like K2SO. In at least the leg and body, not the heads, but their bodies kind of like have that same kind of lanky kind of not muscular. I guess it's a weird way to say that, but like, how whatever kind of droid K2SO is, he's very tall and he's got very long limbs. These have a very similar limb structure.
You know what would have been, you got me thinking like, oh, the New Republic is building like its own version of the K2SO droids and it's using mouse droids and it's doing all of this.
I think they're just repurposing.
You know what would have been an interesting plot for the sequels, which was kind of the plot of Legacy of the Force, is if instead of it being like another rebellion, if it had been like the New Republic, but like the New Republic over time is gradually starting, like they're having to implement these things that the Empire did in order to just maintain stability. These things that they thought they could do away with, they're gradually having to bring back. And the new villains, instead of being like the Empire that fled to Argentina and has now come back, if it had been rebels who thought that
they were doing
the New Republic had basically become just as bad as the Empire.
Right.
That would have been an interesting angle to take the sequels, but it might have been a little too out there and un-Star Warsy. Maybe they'll do it for episodes 10, 11, and 12 in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, Mando takes them out. And
two things about this taking out. One, I feel like he's getting sloppy with the Beskar because he keeps multiple episodes. He like incorporates the fact he's going to get shot as part of his fighting style. And I'm like, either you're doing this on purpose or you should have been majorly dead. But More importantly, the thing that happens in this sequence, this is our second instance in the entire show of the flamethrower not being completely fucking useless.
Right. I know. I was saving that one for you because I know you love when the flamethrower works.
I love when the flamethrower is useless. I have to grudgingly admit when the flamethrower works.
Right. Which I thought was kind of funny. But they kind of walk past them, no big deal. And then Zero tells them, like, before they go into the security room, that there is a organic, I don't know if it's creature or what does he say? He says something along the lines of, like, I detect organic life form behind the door. And we get a fun little cameo here. This is the character who is one lone security guard who just happens to be on the ship. So fuck this guy. I don't know why he's on this ship by himself. He is Davin. And who is he played by?
He is played by wonderful, wonderful heartthrob Matt Lanter, who is been in some things we don't care about.
Right.
What we care about is that Matt Lanter is the voice of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels.
Yes. He is so cute. I know you said we don't care. I know you say you don't care about what he was in, but I used to watch him on Beverly Hills 90210. And he was so fucking hot in that show. And
one of my first, I'll say this, one of the first, gay, realization moments that I had. Because I had, I took a long time to even sort of accept that I was not straight. But one of the moments that I had where I went, I may not be straight, was I was Googling the voice cast for the Clone Wars back when it first came out, when the movie and all of them first came out, because I wanted to see who the voices were behind. And one of the photos was of Matt Lanter. I was 17 or 18 at the time. One of the photos was of Matt Lanter in Beverly Hills 90210, shirtless. I spent a lot of time looking at that photo and not really understanding why I was spending a lot of time looking at that photo.
Yeah, but I was kind of sad.
He did things to my brain at the time.
Well, I'm sad we didn't get to see his abs here.
Because he has them.
Because he has them. They're just hidden. I did love his helmet, though. I love the callback, the 80s callback to the
Tantive 4.
I thought the same with the controls on the security panel and everything. It all just looked very cool and retro.
I have in my notes here that the helmet actually got me realizing that the hallways look like the blockade runner.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Unfortunately, though, we don't get to spend a lot of time with Matt Lanter.
Tearing ourselves away from the beautiful, multi-talented Matt Lanter, a wonderful actor, and wonderful voice actor who also just happens to be drop dead gorgeous.
Right. I did like how they put him in here, though. It was a fun little cameo, fun little I'm in it, kind of thing. But unfortunately, Xeon the Twilight murders him by throwing a knife at him, and I guess that somehow kills him.
Again, how is this not these first people's it would make sense if it were some of their first jobs, but the level of sloppy that they're being, I'm just
right. Well, yeah, because she's so sloppy that she doesn't even realize that he sets off the fucking tracker as she kills him. So it's dude, why didn't you go for the tracker? Why did you go for him to
You have good aim. Knock the tracker out of his hand,
right,
or disable it.
So whatever. And then they leave. And then so basically we're just showing off everybody's abilities at this point, because then there's these random droids that are flying that are some kind of security droid, and Blurg, or I don't even know, not Blurg. I called it Blurg.
No, that's Ewoks, the Battle for Endor.
Right. Berg.
I know we have it on the brain, but
I meant to say Berg, the Devronian, shows how strong he is by taking out these droids, by throwing one at the other one, and they just explode in a massive fire.
We're showing off their abilities, but other than the Devronian, we don't get to spend a lot of time like seeing Mando fight them, which was part of my dislike. It's so much build up with not a lot of payoff.
Well, we finally get to the whole reason why this episode is called The Prisoner, because we get to meet the prisoner, who is Zeon's brother. So actually I like this because it's kind of like a play on the whole, like, Twilights are really into family, even though 2 seconds later later on in the episode we find out that doesn't fucking matter, obviously. But
that's what was established in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Rebels and Clone Wars, normally they're really into family, and so that kind of, if you didn't know, or if you did watch that, you'd be like, oh, that's nice that she was trying to rescue her brother the whole time. Which obviously
that was my first reaction.
But it was funny how Mando also knows this Twi'lek as well, so he must have known both the brother and the sister at the same time. But surprise, double cross. We push Mando.
Wow, shocking! Didn't see that coming at all.
I know, that was so weird. I was like, so is Mando just stupid? Like, I don't understand. Like, he had to know, like, this is happening. Like,
he's going soft because he has a kid now.
Right. It's true. He is. And then we get this random shot of Zero going through Mando's diary again. Like, what the fuck, Zero? Why are you going through Mando's ship and trying to find out his secrets? Like, it's so weird. So this is the point where I was talking about, where I'm thinking that maybe this is where he realized it's the same Mando.
Well, because Baby Yoda wanders in.
Right. And that's why I'm saying this is why he figures it out.
My theory, I'll say it here. My theory was that Zero probably knew that it was the same Mando.
Yeah.
He probably knew that Mando had wandered off with an asset that was very valuable. So he probably was trying to go through Mando's video diaries to find out what the asset was, and didn't know that the asset was the Baby Yoda, either because he didn't get a good look at it
right
during the escape sequence in episode 3 or whatever, but only once the Baby Yoda wanders in does he realize, oh, that's the asset. If I capture this, I will get lots of money, and rewards, and possibly like luxurious oil baths.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whatever it is.
So he doesn't actually find the child until the next scene, but
right. I'm just bringing this up.
Yeah. No, I know. But you're right. It's very interesting how, like, he realized it. I don't know if he'd realize it now or if he just, until he decoded the message, because he does say on the intercom or whatever, he goes, I found out some information about the Mandalorian. And then they're like, we don't care, like, get us out of here kind of thing. Mando breaks out of prison like within 5 minutes of being in, in
an absolutely like brutal sequence that if it had been like a human person or like
absolutely
alien, like a droid, although admittedly in A New Hope they do like cut the guy's arm off and there's just like blood on the ground, but
whatever. Well, I mean, I was gonna say the second he does escape, the whole entire episode turns into this red light horror movie. So,
oh god, I loved that. Like, I have noted here the bit where he's behind Mayfeld and it's the doing the light thing.
Yeah.
Where the light flickers and sometimes he's in it and sometimes he's not. Like, this is just straight up Jon Favreau wants to make a Star Wars horror movie. And this is as close as he's going to get to doing it.
Right. So I wrote down, Mando begins the hunt.
At last, 6 episodes in, we're finally getting to see him do some bounty hunting.
I know, it's kind of funny. So he grabs the tracking beacon because he's not dumb, which obviously this is going to play in later in the episode, but he grabs the little distress beacon, and then he begins to take them out one by one, and then the child with Zero on the ship begins to play hide and seek. So it's a nice little parallel to like what's happening, because Mando is hunting the crew and Zero is hunting the child. So it's like a weird, like they keep going back and forth in these scenes.
I liked the kind of callback to the Quarren, like when he shuts the door on the Deveronian.
Yeah.
I liked the kind of callback to the Quarren where he shuts the door to the Quarren in episode 1. I forgot he had the whistling birds.
Yeah, I know. It was actually
Go
really
off, and I'm like, oh yeah, he has those.
I'm kind of glad that they did that though, because it does remind you, like, oh, he still has these, you know?
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, he just wasted like 3 or 4 of them. He only has so many of them. So,
yeah. Folks, I am also here to once again inform you that within the same episode, status quo has been restored.
Yes.
The flamethrower is still shit.
Well, I think
it works on droids and it works on bounty hunters.
Right.
And it doesn't work on anyone else.
Well, I think it's different here though, because
a stormtrooper. It works on stormtroopers
Right.
and droids and no one else.
Well, I think the only difference is Mando's just dumb and he doesn't realize that fire doesn't work on a devil. So, I mean, obviously Mando, like, I mean, if you were going to be racist at any point in time, this would be the time to be racist. Like, obviously all devils are immune to fire. So I'm assuming.
You would think.
Right.
You know, you would think he would probably know about like the Deveronian and whether or not.
Yeah, you think that would just be common
Although
knowledge.
he's a little bit singed, so maybe he's not necessarily like fire immune.
No, I think he's just
so much as he's just really thick skin.
Right. And then he takes out Xeon as well. But I noted that every time he quote takes them out, we never actually see what he does, like with their bodies or anything like that. We just assume that he just takes them out.
In the context that he also says to the guy, like, they got what they deserved.
Right.
You know, it's implied that he killed them, and it's like the horror vibes of the scene.
Yeah. And that's what's so funny is when Mando, because the whole flashing lights scene, like you were talking about, is like when the lights are flashing and he's slowly getting closer to Mayfield, you're like, oh, he's going to get him. Oh, he's going to get him. Oh, he's going to get him. And then when he finally does get him, like it is implied that they're dead because when her brother, he automatically assumes that he kills them. He doesn't realize that Mando's soft now. So he's like, you know, like you said, they got what they deserved. Yes, well, they did technically get what they deserved. We just don't know what it is that they got deserved.
I noted here that I noted a Star Wars transition at one point with the wipe.
Yeah.
And then we got the scene on the ship with the droid.
Yeah, this was funny. I found this hilarious because Zero finds the baby, right? It's kind of like the hide and seek game is over. And Zero's like, I'm going to point this rifle at you very slowly for dramatic effect.
He has a good sense of dramatic timing.
Right. And then Baby Yoda starts to lift his hand up like he's going to use the Force on the fucking robot. And then just Mando shoots him and he's dead.
I died.
I thought that was him at first.
I died of laughter. I knew I'd seen the episode before, and I still watching it this time around to record this show was like, oh my goodness, he used the foot. Nope, Mando just fucking shot him.
Yep. Oh well.
It's the Gordian knot.
For sure. So Mando makes it back to the chop shop with prisoner in tow. And when the guy's like, where are the others? They do a little callback here. And he's like, I thought you said there was no questions asked. I thought that was just funny that they did that little callback. He's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I said no questions asked. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
it didn't work out.
We did find out he was going to kill him anyway.
Well, that's true. Yeah, because he does get paid, though. He leaves. And just in time because the prisoner had the tracking beacon in his back pocket the whole time.
Now, did you, because I had written down, I didn't have a chance to look up before we started recording. I don't know if the ship that comes up out of the ground is the same model as the starship that Grievous uses.
I didn't look it up,
If not, it
but
looks very similar.
I was gonna say I thought maybe it might be important, like just the style of the ship or something might be important or some kind of callback, but they didn't do anything with it, so I don't really know.
But they blew it up in 5 seconds
Yeah,
later.
so I don't even know if it was even that important. It might be the same type of style as one, but I didn't think it was that important.
It gets blown up by 3 X-wings.
Yeah, the
And
cops
we
show
get
up.
probably my favorite cameos in the entire season.
Who are these X-wing pilots?
These X-wing pilots are played by Deborah Chow,
Mm-hmm.
Rick Famuyiwa,
Yep.
and Dave Filoni, who are
Love
the
that.
directors of episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the show.
Right.
Filoni being the successor to George Lucas, and Chow being the future director of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, having their cameos here in this scene.
Mm-hmm. I loved it. I thought it was so clever. I love that they're in the episode because how else? Like, why not? Just fucking put your directors in cameos. Like, why not?
And like Dave Filoni's lines, the way he says it, like clearly the way they speak their cameo lines.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to see Dave Filoni on screen in an X-Wing that like you don't care.
Yeah. I also love how the New Republic, because this is the New Republic, they're like, oh, the tracking beacon's on that ship. Okay, let's blow it up. No questions asked. Like, we don't even care to investigate. Let's just blow the shit up and leave. Bye. Like,
Which would have played into it nicely if the new if they'd done with my sequel trilogy that I just came up 5 minutes ago.
right.
I need
Yeah.
to time travel to the past. We need to Avengers Endgame this.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
I need to time travel to get the Infinity Stones and time travel to the past so I can pitch a sequel trilogy to Disney. Not that I don't like the sequels.
Right.
I like the sequels a lot, but like I would have liked to have seen that idea. That would have been fun.
But Mando and the child make it out and on to the finale, which is nice. And
We
then
do a hyperspace jump, but the hyperspace jump is not
the end of
the
the
actual
episode,
end of the episode,
which I thought was
interesting.
fun. Yeah, I thought that was like a fun little like. You almost wish they put it at the end of the credits, like
They have like a cute little scene of
right.
and where he shows his development
Yep.
and like hands him the ball. It's like I told you this wasn't gonna work.
Right.
Like he talks to the baby Yoda.
He talks
now
to
on
the
ship.
baby when they're alone, which is very interesting. He's like, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. And then of course we see the crew is stuck in prison. They didn't die. He just threw them all in the prison cell. Yay. Like, I thought it was good for Mando's character, but at the same time it was kind of like, I mean, we kind of knew that's what was going to happen. Like he wasn't going to kill everybody, like, so but it's good because that does help us in season 2. This does,
and possibly later on we may.
Yeah.
I suspect we may see some of these characters a little bit later on,
right,
in future.
Exactly.
Some of them we know we will be seeing later on.
Yes.
Others of them I think
I would hope so. So the directed by comes up. And
who is it directed by?
Rick Fatima.
Yes, this episode director.
Yes. So he's both in the episode and he
directed
it, which is kind of fun, I guess. And I don't really have anything notable about him, but just other than the fact that
he directed other episodes.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the heist vibe.
I will say this is my favorite episode.
Yeah, I was about to ask you actually because I said I love the heist vibe, so I really like this episode. I liked it more on this watch, but I was going to ask you because we were going back and forth, and when you were messaging me earlier, and you were like, "Oh, I'm going to watch the episode." Oh, I forgot. This is my favorite episode of the season. I wanted to be sure to ask you, why is it your favorite episode of the season?
I think just like I said before, just the sheer fact that there's just multiple aliens in this episode that get spotlights and they get characters and they get, lines. They're not just background characters. They actually do something in the plot. That's all I ask for in Star Wars is I just want a fucking main character who's Greedo. Like I want a fucking, you know what I mean? I just want main character aliens. I don't like humans. I like aliens. I want aliens in my Star Wars and I want them to talk and I want them to have plot and I want them to be main characters.
Chewbacca's not good enough for you?
Chewbacca doesn't fucking speak. I need characters who speak basic. So I can understand what they're saying. Or they need to be
you can't understand what Chewbacca's saying? You don't speak Sherlock?
I mean, I can understand.
Sherlock is the new Klingon. Didn't you hear this? I mean, everyone's learning it.
I can't understand Chewbacca, but I can understand BB-8, but that's like about it. Like, you know, so because he kind of already talks.
It's I don't know whether it was originally intended or like if it's a running joke. No, it is a running joke. I think it is canonical that R2-D2 swears all of the time.
Yeah.
And is constantly just like...
Yeah, it's like, watch your mouth.
The
like
foulest language.
I love that.
And it's just like, I love it. I like to imagine what he's saying.
Yeah. So is there anything else for this episode in particular that you have?
No, this was an episode that was like, you know, this is a really fun episode. This was kind of episode if Mando was a network TV show. Mm-hmm. This is what I imagine most of the episodes would kind of feel like. Yeah,
I think so. You're right. It's very like Fox, like you know, like this week, next like week FX. On Fox. Yeah. It's
like FX kind of.
Yeah.
Tune in to the next episode of
next week.
CSI Navarro or whatever.
I mean, inevitably we will get some kind of cop CSI show on that's set in the Star Wars world. Who knows?
Possibly we will get a cop show set in the Star Wars universe, as famously Dick Wolf proved that you can basically just make a cop show and that's all you really need.
Yeah. Well, next week we get I know they're not set as part 1 and part 2 of the finale, but they basically are part 1 and part 2 of the finale. I mean, they kind of coincide with each other. So that's
we move into parts 1 and 2, but our last 2 episodes.
Yep.
And then we're going to do a full season 1 retrospective. And then we've got kind of a neat filler episode in between, and then we're going to jump into our episode 0 for the Bad Batch, and we are going to start recording these a little bit closer to when they air.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to do the episode 0 because I haven't really watched the trailer more than once, so we'll see what that brings, you know, if we get a little more information on that. Maybe there'll be a new trailer by the time we get there.
I'm excited to watch the show with the context of I can go on and talk about it. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, with Mando season 2 and some of these, like I watch them, I have to watch them the night they air because I wake up in the morning and I'm well known in my circles as the Star Wars guy. So I wake up at 7 a.m. Pacific time on that Friday with like 3 or 4 messages already in my inbox. Have you seen the new episode of The Mandalorian yet? And then I check Twitter. It's like everybody wants to talk about it. But it'll be nice to watch it with we're going to watch it. And then I'm going to come in immediately and actually be able to talk about it, about the show, and not just go off on Facebook for 10 paragraphs.
Right. Well, that's all I have for this episode. So be sure to follow us on the Twit. And
Twitter at Goldsquadrongays.
I was going to say the tweeter. Follow us on the tweeter.
And the
Instagrams.
At Goldsquadrongays.
Right. And that's all, folks. Oh my god, you know what I just realized? The stormtroopers are the Space Force of the Army branch in Star Wars.